Hello, my name is Keshwani. It's Keshwani, Keshwani. We are here because we want to prepare for the GMAT. We have been solving GMAT math problems out of this book here, GMAT Review, the official guide, the 13th edition. If you do not own this book already, purchase one immediately. You're going to need it. The problem that we are about to solve is the one that you will find on page number 166, and today is our lesson number 109. Lesson number 109. Let's make it more legible. Problem number 104 is what we are about to do. Problem number 104. We have a square mirror, we are told, with 20-inch diagonal. It has a 20-inch diagonal. The question simply is, what is its approximate perimeter? So here's our square mirror. The diagonal is 20, and this is, let's call it x. So since this is a square mirror in this triangle here, if you apply the Pythagorean theorem, we will find that x squared plus x squared equals 20 squared. The hypotenuse. 20 squared, of course, is 400, and let's take 2x squared. 2x squared equals 400. That implies that x squared equals 200, and that implies that x equals approximately square root of 200, which is approximately. And how much is square root of 200? If you've been watching my video on a regular basis, you know that I always tell you that there are some basic facts of arithmetic that you must have at your fingertips. And there are several of those that I go through in the video to remind you what it is. And one of the things I tell you over and over again is to memorize your squares. You must know your squares 1 through 20. You must know them 1 through 20. Let's put them very quickly on the blackboard here. 1 through 20, okay? All of the squares. So here we go. 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, 49, 64, 81, 100. Now that was a piece of cake. Most people do know this. It is the 11 through 20 is what I'm talking about. You must know your squares by heart. Otherwise you will end up wasting a lot of time in the exam figuring out simple things. 11 squares is 121, 12 squared is 144, 13 squared is 169, 14 squared is 196. Voila! 14 squared is 196, this is 200, which means this is approximately 14. It is approximately 14. And that's the x, which is the side of the mirror. And since there are 4 sides, therefore the perimeter is 4x, which is 4 times 14. And the only answer choice, among all the answer choices that they give us, the only answer choice that comes closest to it is 60. The answer is B. Because obviously it's not 40, and obviously it's not 80. The answer is B. 80 is a sucker answer because they see 20 and they just go multiply 20 times 4. That's it, we're done with this one. Let's do next one, shall we? 105. We're done with this particular problem. It's 105. Let's finish this up. That was a 14 square, 15 square is 225, 16 square is 256. 17, 18, and 19 is not something that appears in the exam very often. You don't have to memorize them. 17, 18, and 19. Don't worry about them. And finally, you have to know your 20 square, which is 200, which is 400. Because 2 times 2 is 4, and obviously you got 2 zeros at the end. That's it. Number 105. In 105 we are told that the present ratio of student to teacher is 30 to 1. We are told then that if the number of student goes up by 50, now don't worry about the fact that sometimes I use a small letter, sometimes I use a large letter, it really doesn't matter, okay, as long as you understand it. S for student, T for teachers. We are told that if S goes up by 50 and T goes up by 5, again I did it again, that's a small letter again, there we go. Then we are told in that case that the new ratio will be 25 to 1. What is the question asking? 105. What is the present number of teachers? They want to know how many T's. Question is how many T's? How many T's? How many teachers? So let's do it then, shall we? So here's the present situation. Present situation we are told that is 30 to 1. That means for every one teacher there are 30 students, which means if you were to take the number of teachers and if you were to multiply that amount by 30, that equals to the number of students. That's our first equation. The ratio of students to teachers is 30 to 1, which is same as saying that if you were to take the number of teachers and multiply it by 30, that's how many students we have. That's what that equation is. That's the present situation. The new situation is that if you were to take our teachers and increase that by 5, and if we were to take our students and increase that by 50, now the ratio is 25 to 1, which means if you were to take the new number of teacher and multiply that by 25, multiply this amount, the new number of teachers by 25, that's how many students we have. Voila, that's it. Very simple, very straightforward. This was the biggest hurdle that most people have, knowing how to set up the equations. And if you have trouble, if you're one of those people who have trouble with the word problems, I'm breaking into a sermon as you can tell. If you're one of those people who have trouble with the algebra word problem, on my channel you will find 100 word problems. It will say algebra day 101 through 200. The first 100 days from day 1 to 100 I spend dealing with the very basic elementary concept of algebra, and then from day 101 through 200 you will find 100 algebra word problems. They start out very simple and they progressively get more and more complicated. Work through those 100 words problem and you will see a marked improvement in your ability to come up with the proper equation from a word problem. This was the biggest hurdle. The rest is downhill. All we're going to do is substitute this value of s from here, s equals 30t, in this guy, and that's it. So open the parentheses here. 25 times t is 25t, and 25 times 5 is 125, equals s plus 50, but s we know is 30t. So it's 30t plus 5. Subtract 25t's from both sides, and we get 5t equals, and subtract 5 from both sides. 5t equals 120. If 5t equals 120, something is going wrong because that's not what I have in my notes. That's not a 5, that's a 50. So 125 minus the 50 is a 75. Now even if I had left it at 120 and had I continued the work, and assuming that there are no answer choices there, just listen to me, if there were no answer choices, had it been an open-ended question, we would have at the end caught the fact that we made a mistake, and I'll show you how we would have caught the fact that we would have made a mistake. I'll tell you in a second. So divide both sides by 5 and t equals 75 divided by 5. How many 5s in a 7? 7 has 1 5. The remaining 2 goes and joins the 5, becomes 25, and 25 has 5 5. Voila. Divide both sides by 5. So t equals 15. Now I'm going to show you how we would have caught our mistake by verifying it. How are we going to verify it? I always like to verify because it's the premium I find worth paying. It's an insurance that I'm going to buy. Like any other insurance, this is going to cost me something, and I'm willing to pay that premium a few extra seconds for the peace of mind that I have the right product. I have the right answer. So t equals 15. We want to verify this thing. If t equals 15, then s must equal 15 times 30, because we were told the ratio is 30 to 1. So for every one teacher we have 30 students. If we have 15 teachers, we must have 15 times 30 students. 15 times 3 is 45 and a 0. Number of students is 450. The new situations we are told that now the teacher is 20 because they went up by 5. The new situations, the teachers went up by 5 or 20. And the new ratio we are told, and the new number of students we are told is 500 because they went up by 50. The new number of students must be 50. And you will see that if you look at these two numbers, you will see that 500 equals, let's put it here, 500 equals 25 times 20. Voila! 25 times 20. Because 25 times 10 is 250. 25 times 10 is 250. Therefore 25 times 20 will be 500. It matches. The new number of teacher is in fact 25 times, rather the 25 times the new number of teacher is in fact the new number of students. The new number of students is 50 more than before, and the new number of teacher is 5 more than before. You see, it works, it verifies. Had we had the wrong answer for t, number of t, it would not have worked out, you see. You want to do one more? Let's do one more, let's finish it up so that we don't have to do the separate day for the last problem on the page. 106. In the 106 they are asking us what is the smallest integer n for which 25 times n is greater than 5 raised to 12. The very first thing we have to do is to make sure that we make the base the same. If the base is the same, we can talk about the powers. So let's try 25 as 5 squared, which is same as 5 raised to 2n. So now we are told that 5 raised to 2n is greater than 5 raised to 12, which implies that 2n must be greater than 12, which implies in return that n must be more than 6. And since n is more than 6, and since n is an integer, therefore the smallest integer that we can find, which is more than 6, must be 7. Therefore the smallest integer greater than 6 is 7. That's your answer. Answer is B. The smallest integer greater than 6 is 7. That's it. We're done. I'll see you tomorrow. All right? Bye now.